Welcome Trinidad and Tobago to our News 4 report, a product of the Government Information Services Limited. I'm Nicola Barito. Let's take a look at the headlines. Attorney General says Indian arrival holiday represents the struggles our ancestors faced in paving a new way of life here in the Caribbean. Researcher on Indian culture Dr. Satnarayan Balkaransing highlights a number of concerns on the local Hussain commemoration activity and a special feature on Indian arrival. Thank you for joining us to our top story. Attorney General Anand Ramlogan says all holidays hold a special place in our political and cultural landscape here in Trinidad and Tobago. Speaking at the launch of Indian Arrival Day activities at the office of the Attorney General, he said the holiday represents the struggles our ancestors faced in paving a new way of life here in the Caribbean, and it was up to us to remember them.
Attorney General Anand Ramlogan is urging citizens to take the Indian Arrival Day holiday as an opportunity to reflect and think where our society would be without our forefathers. Speaking at celebrations held at the office of the Attorney General, Mr. Ramlogan noted it was days such as Indian Arrival Day and Emancipation Day that gave the chance for younger generations to learn about their ancestral heritage.
To remember our ancestors, whose courage and bravery led to our presence in Trinidad and Tobago, our homeland and our new motherland. What courage and strength it would have taken at a time when technology was not what we know it today, when it would have taken so long to journey to this newfound world and this newfound land in search of a better future. Such courage, such bravery, we must always pay homage and respect to it.
This year marks the 167th anniversary since the fatal Razak docked on Nelson Island with the first batch of Indian indentured immigrants. He noted that while both indentureship and slavery shared commonalities, they were by no means similar.
These are very powerful reminders of our past, and there is some common thread running through indentureship and slavery, although of course they are by no means similar or identical. But from 1845 until 1917, thousands of Indians embarked on a journey to Trinidad.
He added that one of the aspects of being a proud national of Trinidad and Tobago was the coexistence of all groups as one nation.
I stand here today as a proud national of this cosmopolitan society of ours. Right here in our land, in this country, indeed right here in this ministry, we have had people drawn from a multitude of races, ethnic origins, religions, and various religious denominations. Our greatest feat as a nation is that we have derived our cultural strength from such diversity. The defining characteristic of our society is that in the face of all our differences, no one group has chosen to exist in a vacuum or in isolation.
Since coming into office as Attorney General, A.G. Ramlogan has vowed that the ministry, together with staff, hold observances for every major religious, cultural and national event on the local calendar in recognition of the various groups that make up our cosmopolitan society. Kimberly Ramkalawan, News 4.
The local Hussain commemoration activity is rapidly losing its art form. This according to researcher on Indian culture, Dr. Satnarayan Balkaransing, who highlighted a number of features that were disappearing from observances held in St. James. The points were raised at this year's feature speech delivered during Indian Arrival Day celebrations held at Nallis.
St. James is known as a town that never sleeps, but it's also known for the Indian indentures who were the first settlers of the town over 160 years ago and helped shape the northwestern town to be what it is today. The East Indian influence on the town still speaks for itself today, as observances of the Hussain riots are commemorated every year. But while this annual colorful procession of Tajas to the beat of Tassa drums continue to flood the streets of St. James, renowned researcher on Indian culture Dr. Satnarayan Balkaransing noted that key aspects of this observance are slowly dying.
Banaiti is a long stick where you light this corner and you light that corner and they play it around them, right? That is lost. But up to recently, it was still, until about 8-10 years ago, it was still in Cedras. Right. Even Gatka. I have interviewed people 4 years ago in Cedras who used to play it. But we lost it in St. James. We lost the fire pass. There is still fire pass called Ag Matam in India, which I have seen and I've attended. So we have lost that here too.
His lecture comes as part of the National Library's display on Indian presence in St. James, which coincides with this country's celebration of 167 years since East Indians arrived on the shores of Trinidad and Tobago. Another element essential to Hussein is tassa drumming. However, this too was something the feature speaker highlighted was also losing its tradition.
The drumming carries its own message, its own narration, its own narrative, its own mood. Now, in Lucknow, even in St. James, they used to sing the Marsiyas. So when the processions come on the streets in the night, the ladies and men would sing Marsiyas. These are sad songs, these are dirges. And they would throw rice, because it's like a funeral going, right? And they would lament, they would beat themselves.
The influence Hussein has had on the Trinidad society cannot be denied, as Dr. Balkaran Singh points out the linkage of Trinidad Mass to Hussein.
The Taja is built inside the Imambara, but the Taja is so big, so tall, it's 15 feet. Initially it used to be more than 15 feet, and they would walk with a rod and lift up all the electric wires for it to pass, because it was on shoulders. It used to be carried on shoulders, and then they started wheeling it. Very interesting history, and having written about it and doing the research on Hussein and Carnival, it was very interesting for me too. The wheeled platforms, the floats in the Carnival, took it from the wheeling of the Taja of the St. James Hussein.
The first observance of Hussein in Trinidad has been traced back to 1854, 11 years after the first indentured laborers arrived from India. The display will run at the National Library located on Abercrombie Street, now till June 12th. Kimberly Ramkalawan, News 4.
News 4 continues after the break. Stay with us.
Now, if you are in a flood-prone area, move your valuable items above expected floodwaters.
Construct flood barriers to prevent water from entering your home or building.
The next big problem that causes flooding is the dumping of garbage and appliances by the river. How much times we'll say to put the old stove and fridge by the river bank? Listen, it's going to create even more flooding.
Here are some other precautions you can take.
Turn off gas and electricity. Unplug all electrical appliances.
Put dangerous liquids like strong chemicals and flammable liquids in a safe place and close those containers tightly.
Place important documents, passport, deed, birth certificate, in waterproof containers or sealed plastic bags.
Common sense now. Park your vehicle in an area that will not flood.
Secure pets on higher ground.
Have an emergency plan for your family or business so you'll know what to do beforehand, where you will go, and how you will deal with a flooding situation.
That was some real good tips, Dee. But at the end of the day, flooding takes place. And if indeed you become a victim of flooding, here is the hookup. You need to contact your regional corporation or the ODPM at 800 ODPM.
Great, Jason. Remember, damages caused by flooding can be minimized. So let's plan and prepare.
In order to safeguard our family, our community, and our country.
A message from the Ministry of National Security, Office of Disaster Preparedness and Management.
Welcome back. India, a culture of science exhibition, opened its doors to the public at the Diwali Nagar. The exhibit showcases both ancient Indian scientific knowledge and the Indian contribution to modern science and technology. Tertiary Education Minister, the Honorable Fazal Karim, introducing the exhibit, described it as the first of its kind in the Caribbean.
It's the first of its kind to visit these shores. An exhibit titled India, Culture of Science, presented by Nehurst and visiting representatives from India. The show displays both ancient Indian scientific knowledge and the Indian contribution to modern science and technology. In opening the exhibit, Tertiary Education Minister Fazal Karim said in science there was no boundaries as it defied national borders in its capacity to create and provide solutions.
In the final analysis, ladies and gentlemen, there is no such thing as Indian science. No Chinese or German or American science. There's only science. That pure universal knowledge that transcends all socio-cultural boundaries to be discovered and accessed by all.
MP for Chaguanas West Jack Warner, in welcoming the exhibition to Trinidad, said it brought an unsurpassed level of technology to his constituency.
Tonight, Chaguanas is the science capital of the Caribbean. And when you imagine Chaguanas just 50 years ago was the capital of the sugar plantation, and today is the capital, the science capital of the Caribbean, how far we have traveled. In a few minutes, my friends, when you walk through those doors to witness the marvel that is India, a science of culture, you will experience the human joy of creating and of innovating.
Mrs. Sangeeta Gairola, visiting Secretary of Government from the Ministry of Culture in India, described the exhibit as one showcasing the various aspects of science unique to India.
Master craftsmen will provide on-site demonstrations on some of India's finest, world-renowned craft technologies such as bidri ware, silver filigree work, marble inlay, etc., which have endured for centuries, handed down from generation to generation. A separate section showcases India's advances in the frontiers of science in the areas of agriculture, biotechnology, chemistry, space technology, oceanography, geological science, and IT and computer technology.
This collaboration comes some months after both institutions signed an agreement in India as part of the state visit by Trinidad and Tobago's Prime Minister Kamla Persad Bissessar. Kimberly Ramkalawan, News 4.
The top players in the North Zone basketball, as well as some big names from Tobago, will grace the courts at the Jean Pierre Sports Complex this weekend for All-Star Saturday. The North Zone Basketball Commission will be hosting the event, and Wayne Cunningham has the details.
The stars of North Zone Basketball will be on show this weekend when the league hosts All-Star Saturday at the Jean Pierre Sports Complex. And according to Commission Chairman Barry Stewart, a lot more will be in store for the fans.
In terms of good sportsmanship and basketball that the teams and them bring, in terms of we have hampers given out on like the All-Star Day, and when farms certain nights that when we have the bigger games, the more popular side like Defense Force and the Shack Attack and them, we also have giveaways on the night. We get a couple hampers from Nestle that was good, but other than that, the good basketball and the under 16 and the under 19 showing real development, and they appreciate the fans and the parents and them coming out to support them.
Along with the North Zone stars, some other notable players will be on show come Saturday.
The All-Star games where we have the top national players from Trinidad. We're going to be playing against the Tobago companions, and then they'll be coming down on the second. We also have the females. The females will be coming down, and I think a special treat for the night on the All-Star, we have the veterans, the two veterans, the Branches Academy veterans and the North veterans. They will be playing against the All-Star second division side. That we are seeing players like Derek Cornbread James, You will see Lester Morgan, these players and them coming out, Roland Sylvester and coming out and play. But it will be a treat to see these old men play against these younger guys. And I would not like to see the veterans and them win. But I believe it will be a good fight.
Basketball will not be the only thing to savor on the day.
On that day also is our fundraising, because our fundraiser, one of them in being the barbecue, we having a barbecue on that day. Come along, anybody feel like it would be out on the end facing Movie Town, where we have the barbecue, selling fish and chicken, small price.
Wayne Cunningham, News 4 Sports.
When we come back, fulfilling the promise.
Informing and educating the nation, especially the young ones, about water, how it's won and processed, and how it should be protected are just a few of our major responsibilities here at the Public Education Center. The enjoyable learning environment, cultivating conservation habits, developing healthy relationships, and giving our public an appreciation of the environment in which we produce water. WASA's PEC, the region's only public education center on water.
In our special feature, Fulfilling the Promise, we highlight the initiatives and achievements of the government over its 2 years in office. At News 4, we've joined in that effort, and each day in our news package, we feature one of those highlights from the long and impressive list of milestones over these 24 months. In this story, we look at the Prime Minister's Children's Life Fund.
There can be no keener revelation of a society's soul than the way in which it treats its children. These are the wise, potent, and true words of, as I said, Nelson Mandela, former president of South Africa. Because there is no doubt that each child is a precious gift from God. And each child deserves the opportunity to be happy, to be healthy, to play, to dream, to be all that he or she was created to be. I promised that we would establish Children's Life Fund. Monies to go for life-saving surgeries and so on for children, because I could not believe that a country like ours, with an annual GDP of about $22.5 billion US dollars, last figures for 2009, that we would have our children dying because we could not give them the medical care that they needed. I say today to all of you, join us as we make a meaningful attempt to improve the lives of children who are without a doubt the most vulnerable. I am advised that under the Medical Aid Committee that was being utilized by the Ministry of Health prior to the legislative effect of the Children's Lives Authority, since June 2010, 38 children ranging from 6 to 14 years have benefited from over $10 million in financial assistance. So we saved 38 children from May last year to the present time. I hope we can save many more lives. If it was not for the intervention of the ministry, young Krista might not have had a chance, or baby Kayla, or young Shavlon. This, however, was the forerunner, and now the hard work begins with an aggressive campaign to reach our target of $100 million. I ask you all to join us, be part of something special. The Children's Life Fund is integral to achieving our goal as a nation, protecting the right of every child in TNT to life, to survival, and development. The Children's Life Fund will also protect families who may be at risk of becoming medically indigent due to the catastrophes associated with health care for the child's medical condition. I call on all citizens here and those who will read and hear of us to, throughout our land, to place the health and well-being of our children first. May God continue to bless each and every one of you. May God continue to bless our nation.
When we come back, a special feature on Indian arrival.
The iPhone 4S has an all-new camera with 8 megapixels and advanced optics. So it lets you capture stunning photos And because it's an iPhone, you can do things you never imagined possible with a camera. So maybe the only camera you need is the one on the most amazing iPhone yet.
They left India to make a better life for their families.
During this time, they reduced import duties on all European goods that were coming into India, so that instead of India being an exporter of goods to Europe, India was now the largest importer of goods. Now, once they brought all these goods to India, it meant that millions of Indians were displaced.
Ek boli Ganga pani, be stronger than the pain. Build up the land again. Giving is your dharma.
With the abolition of slavery in 1834, there was a shortage of labor on the sugar estates and a rapid decline in profits. To restore their fortunes, the plantation owners looked to India for cheap labor, indentured labor. Their incredible journey changed the history of Caribbean territories such as British Guyana, Suriname, and Trinidad and Tobago.
They were also promised when they were boarding, when they were signing this girmit, this agreement, that they would be given the kinds of food that they were accustomed to in India. When lo and behold, once they got on the ship, it was biscuit morning, noon and night, and they were not accustomed to biscuits. So that there was a good deal of illness and nursing women and young children. Large numbers of them died because of the strangeness of the diet. They're promised one thing, they are given another thing. Even when the things that they were accustomed to, like dal and rice and so on, when these things were brought on the ship, very soon, after a week or so, then they became infested with weevils and all kinds of lice and so on. So that even when they were given food to which they were accustomed, they had great difficulty in eating because so often it was so impure and so often so unclean.
It was a long and difficult journey that took almost 3 months. There was hunger, depression, disease, and death. After months of grueling travel, the indentured laborers arrived on Nelson Island. The arrival at Nelson Island marked the beginning of a new life, but there were many struggles ahead. There were many indignities suffered as a result of indentureship, but the passion to succeed and a strong faith helped our East Indian ancestors to survive. They also relied on their Jihaji bundles brought with them as their sole belongings on the ship. The contents of these bundles contributed significantly to the culture of Trinidad and Tobago. Included in the bundles were their holy books, the Ramayana and the Quran. The Jihaji bundles also contained fruit and flower seeds that changed the Caribbean landscape. Staples like rice, corn and citrus were planted and flourished because of their similar climate to India. Even with the poor pay and the difficult work, there was survival through persistence and perseverance, and a soul-sustaining culture brought from India to the Caribbean. This has infused Trinidad and Tobago with amazing food, culture and history. This culture has been preserved and passed on. There has also been the collaboration between East Indian and African cultures. Indian music has been fused with calypso, giving us chutney soca. There have also been amazing contributions to the economic growth of Trinidad and Tobago, with many family businesses being passed from generation to generation. Families have worked hard from indentureship in the sugar estates to today and will continue to contribute to Trinidad and Tobago in every field of endeavor. This legacy of pride and hard work is a true symbol of that journey made from India to Trinidad and Tobago on May 30th, 1845. From the contribution of our East Indian ancestors to our present elders and youth, there is a constant passing of the torch that ensures that the culture and the passion for sharing is continued from generation to generation. Let us celebrate the legacy of our East Indian brothers and sisters. Happy Indian Arrival Day to all.
We wrap up this edition of our News 4 report, a product of the Government Information Services Limited. I'm Nicola Barreto. Thank you for joining us.